Hi guys. This is your boy Nochi, and I am welcoming you. Some of you might remember me from the Nigerian History Now You Know podcast. I understand it's been a while since the last episode, and a lot of people have been asking me how far now, what's up, and I'm glad to, finally be able to answer that question. Moving forward, I will be partnering with my co-host, Adebola, and we have a new podcast, Analyze This, Views from Home and Abroad, a Nigerian History podcast. And we will be doing all of this with the assistance of Osas, who is an amazing script writer and basically a research assistant. She helped us work on the episode as well. This is our first episode. We're still trying to work on our rapport and make our episode be organic with minimal edits. So, bear with us. It's going to get better. This is our first attempt as working as a team, so basically it's going to get better as the episodes go. We've all worked hard on this episode and I hope you enjoy listening to it.
For those of you who have been messaging me and talking to me over the last couple of months, why hasn't an episode been brought out, or why isn't there anything new on the podcast? This is why we've been working on something new. I am no longer alone on the podcast. I have a co-host and, basically a team. We are now a team working on the podcast together, and I'm very excited to bring it to you guys. So I would introduce my co-host now, please. Come in and tell us who you are and, what we are doing here, basically.
Hi everyone, my name is Adebola and I'll be joining Journey. And so welcome to Analyze This, views from abroad and home, given that I am abroad in the US and Nochi is at home in Nigeria. And it's a Nigerian history podcast, a unique initiative. This podcast is a platform to explore and discuss Nigerian history from diverse perspectives, so locally and globally. So co-hosted, both of us, right? Our aim is to provide insightful analysis, thought-provoking conversations, and engage a wide audience. So you guys, right? So join us on the dive into the rich tapestry of Nigerian history and uncover stories that shape our understanding of the past and present.
Yeah. So welcome, guys. Welcome. For those of you who are listening for the first time, welcome. For those of you who have listened in the past, welcome. And we're really, really excited to have you on our first episode of the podcast. So welcome to the first episode. On this new version of the podcast, basically what we are going to be doing is on each episode, we're going to talk about an important happening in Nigeria, something that has happened recently. And then we now have a main topic that we're going to talk about. Today
Okay.
we're going to be talking about the national grid, which has collapsed for the 10th time this year. I mean, I didn't even know we had a collapsible grid until this year. It has been crazy. And, it has happened again. So for those of us who do not live on this side of the continent,
Don't
you
spoil
guys
us.
might not understand what we're talking about, but yeah, our national grid has collapsed again. There's a way the light goes off and I just know that the grid is gone and, it happened again. So, I'm wishing and hoping that there is a way that something can be done, but uh, politicians are not really interested because everybody acts like it hasn't happened, and then we go on until it happens again. But yeah,
But
national grid is. What are your thoughts on
but
the national grid collapsing again?
remember I asked you the last time when I was saying that, are you sure it's actually the grid that is collapsed, or is it something else that is collapsing?
Because at this
You
point I
told me
don't
that it
know.
was Twitter. It's Twitter sufficient.
That's what it is now. That's how you find out that the grid has collapsed. Somebody on Twitter just comes and they post about it, and then you ask your neighbors when the light goes off. You're like, "Do you guys have light?" Maybe let's say you're not sure that something hasn't burned in your own house. You understand? That's how it goes. But yeah. Hopefully we leave grid collapse in 2024 as we're going to the new
Amen.
year. Thank you very much. Yeah. So for those of you abroad that did not know, now you know. So down to the main topic of the podcast. So welcome to our first episode. And I hope you enjoy listening to it as much as we enjoyed making it.
So today we're going to be talking about the Nigerian flag and kind of delve into it. Sometimes we overlook it, and it's been nice to have a interesting take on it. So on to you.
Yeah.
Tell.
So
No.
basically, we're going to be talking about Nigerian flag, as she has said. So we're going to talk about what the flag is and, other important aspects of why the flag is what it is and why it's important. So first of all, like we we're saying, what is a flag?
So um, as our title implies, we're talking about the Nigerian flag this period and why the Nigerian. Okay, so why the Nigerian flag? Well, why not, right? So let's face it. When last did you think about the Nigerian flag? Did you even, I've never even thought about it. We think about it during independence, whether we're in public and we're trying to identify ourselves amongst our comrades or our country counterparts. So this episode will unpack will be a full package. So first of all, a flag can be many things depending on what the context is. So it could be, in today's conversation, it could be a piece of cloth, right? So it's a piece of cloth hanging on a pole, but that doesn't mean anything huge until it is called a flag.
So why is that basically? Why can't I just cut any piece of cloth, maybe my mother's Ankara, and hang it on a pole,
Ah, okay.
let it dance in the wind and declare it's my national flag? Why can't I do that?
Okay, well, it really depends. I think actually it depends. You know, individual qualities to be a nation because it is not just a flag but a national flag and it's a symbol, right? That
Okay.
represents an identity. Everyone.
Okay. Okay. So what then is a national flag?
Okay, so first of all, so a national flag is a piece of cloth with color designs and pictures. So not just your Ankara cloth that you took from your mom's closet or something, but
Fair enough.
each sovereign nation, right, has one flag, and no two countries has a similar flag, which is kind of debatable because you see different colors and they look really similar. So a national flag is designed with a specific meaning in mind. And so one nation's national symbol that makes a sovereign nation unique to her own style. So it's usually simple, colorful, and beautiful in design and carries a powerful historical meaning and message to the citizens of that country.
Okay. Okay. That's a great one. So I'd like to touch more on your statement that a national flag is a national symbol. So basically, yeah, what are you saying there?
Well, what is a symbol? It could mean that the country is considered truly independent, maybe which requires more than just a constitution, a structure of a government, or something like that.
Okay.
Remember when they taught us in government or social studies in
You
class?
guys did social
So
studies.
yes, we did social studies. Yeah, we did
Uh,
social studies. We did
okay.
history. We even
Okay.
did
Okay.
American history and global history. Yeah, we did
Yeah.
social studies. Ah,
Interesting.
no,
No,
come on now.
I'm
We
just saying.
need
I'm just saying.
to.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, I hear you. So basically, for the episode of this podcast and for those people listening outside, I would want to talk about what a national symbol is. So it is important for us to know what a national symbol is because national symbols generally they are objects, entities, relics that represent a sovereign nation. So there are key elements that are unique to a particular nation that contribute to the country's expression of nationhood and identity making. And I want us to focus a lot more on what that identity is basically. So basically a national symbol, according to a scholar called Redmond, is an artistic, natural, or human representation of a nation's identity. And it is intended to unite people by creating visual, verbal, or iconic representation of those people's values and their history. So basically, a national symbol could be an artistic or a natural or a human representation of a people's identity. So whatever that symbol is, it is representing the people's identity. And it can be represent these people's identity either through visual, verbal, or iconic, presentations. And whatever this representation is doing is showing the values, and the history of these people. These symbols are often rallied around as part of celebrations of patriotism and nationalism. So basically, these symbols, while they represent the identity of the people, it's also used to bring the people together to rally around these symbols so that they can celebrate their nationhood. Do we understand? So that's why we need symbols. Like,
Sure. And then, like I said, national symbols are important to us, and it's much more than a constitution or a structure of governance, institution or a big thing. Like we said again, I went to school, so I did social studies. Okay, no, okay. Um,
fair enough.
so there's actually an entire universe of images and symbols that is needed to create like a newly independent nation. One can
Okay,
actually compare what Nigerian flag was pre-independence and post-independence. So,
okay,
so the goal is having a national symbol is for them to de-emphasize the different cultures or traditions, right? But to emphasize a national identity or loyalty in terms of like a loyalty to something, right? So
okay,
prompting the identity of a collective above individual parts.
okay. So, what's the meaning of an identity and why should we protect it? So, it's great that you bring up the issue of identity because the whole topic of national symbols and flags are about identity. Flags are a very integral part of every country's identity. And why do you think that is?
Hmm. That's a very good question. I said
Yeah,
simply, identity. Who are you? Who am I? What something is, and
yeah,
how to know something is what it is by its characters, right? So the thing
yeah,
you see that essentially make that thing to be what it is. The same applies to national identity. There are certain things that need to be seen in order to qualify as a country, as independent or sovereign. And these things range from the constitution, the national symbols we're talking about today.
okay, okay. So exactly. National symbols basically they tell us about the country's identity, like my co-host has said. Um, these symbols also describe the values of the nation. Remember when we said earlier when we were trying to define what those symbols are, we said whatever these symbols are, they represent the identity and then the values of a nation. Okay, they represent the nation's journey into nationhood. And it also signifies their credibility in some cases, and in little, situations, it can also signify their diversity. There are two categories of national symbols. They could be material and non-material symbols. So for an example, material symbols, you have the national flag, the coat of arm, passports, currency, the constitutional national identity card, which for most of you in Nigeria, I applied for that ID card since 2013 and I'm yet to get my
Oh
I'm here to
wow.
get the ID card itself. I have like a slip, a paper slip that's
Okay.
given to, so I know that I have a national identity number, but the card itself, since 2013, I have not yet received it.
Wow.
But anyway, the card is an
Okay.
example of a material national symbol. And
Mm,
examples of non-material symbols, you have the national, public holidays, national anthem, the pledge, and etc.
okay. So essentially, national symbols give a country her credibility, the same way brands, logos, and designs give a brand its credibility. Isn't that so?
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
So moving closer to focus on what we are focusing on today, our own green, white, green. That's what we're here to talk about. The
Mhm.
Nigerian national flag. Yeah. So what is the Nigerian national flag?
Mm. So um, it's our number one, right? The most important
Yeah.
symbol, national symbol.
Okay.
So the two script horizontal bicolored simple design of emerald green and immaculate white. So the left and right stripes are green while the center stripe is white. The colors used on the national flag is very special and made in to international color standards. So I will not delve in terms of standards, but it's made according to international standards, and its dimensions simple ratio of length of the flag being double that of the breadth.
I mean, I'm hearing for the first time that we have international color standards behind the flag.
Mm,
But that's the essence of the podcast. Basically, we are here to learn things that we didn't know. So
mm,
now you know that there are color standards for the national flag, not these things that you people have been hanging all over the place in front of your schools and offices. The colors
mm.
is supposed to be emerald green and immaculate white. I'm here to see all the flags I see hanging
Yes.
in the banks. I'm yet to see uh
Oh, really? Okay.
the immaculate white. This they are not the white is not immaculate
But
at all.
what about in government
Oh
offices? I'm
yeah,
sure
maybe
that.
government office. Yes, yeah.
Mhm.
Uh-huh. But
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
I
Nigeria
don't
is
enter
good
government
now. Yeah,
offices.
please don't make it look bad.
Nigeria is what it is. If sometimes if
Okay.
I see what it is, you know how it is on the internet. People are always talking about how we are demarketing the country, right? And this
Mm,
is very important. I don't think if I am stating the obvious, I am demarketing the country. That is
mm,
what the country is. We shouldn't
mm,
lie. We're more interested in maintaining our image than actually making change in this country.
mm,
And I think that
mm,
that's a problem. You understand?
mm,
So, like the banks I used to enter, some office buildings that I have entered, the flags were not immaculate white, but we're learning that today. So
mm,
now we know what the Nigerian national flag is basically. And
mm,
we now want to look into the story behind the national flag. How did we have a horizontal emerald green and immaculate white piece of cloth, that now became the primary representation of our identity as a nation? So the original design, basically. How
mm.
did we get here?
So, all right. So, Nigeria gained her independence from Britain, as we know, right, in 1960 on October 1st. So, Nigeria ceased to be the colony of the British Empire, but now a fully fledged sovereign nation. So, this was a great thing and probably the best thing to happen to Nigeria, depending on who you ask. What do you think?
Exactly. Was it though?
Uh-huh.
I mean, it was a great thing, but I don't want to put my own theories here because like if our independence was actually us becoming completely independent, then it would have
Mm,
been a great thing. But
mm,
basically when you don't fight for your independence and you made deals, we
mm,
still made a lot of conceptions, or what? No, that's
mm,
not the word. Concessions is the word I'm looking for. So I don't
mm,
know if the way our independence was given to us was the best thing. I think
mm.
independence in general was the best thing that could have happened to us. But the way our independence came about is where the problem is.
Mm,
Does that make
that's
sense?
interesting. Yeah, that's actually an interesting topic. Okay. So all of Nigeria was excited for the dawn of the new era and the era of freedom from colonial rule. But beyond the excitement in the streets, the country was going through a major transition involving both colonial authorities and Nigerian people. So you can just imagine, most people were focused on the important aspects of the transition, like drafting the constitution, formation of political parties, elections, you know, journalism, other internal political drama. So
And there was a
somebody or
lot.
some I'm telling you, I can imagine. So somebody
There
or
was a
some
lot.
people
Yeah.
needed to focus on other aspects of transition, which was the image and identity part.
Yeah. So basically, the independence of Nigeria was like launching a new brand. And so for
Mm,
some of our listeners or people who, are familiar with the podcast who are into marketing, you people understand what it means to launch a new brand. You
mm,
understand? So a change of administration, new representation on the global stage, all of this were part of this new brand called Nigeria. So with all these changes came a need for a new brand identity. So when you are having a new brand or you are rebranding something, basically,
mm.
for those of you who are into cars, you saw that Jaguar basically rebranded recently, and there was a lot of,
That's true.
backlash. Some people loved it, some people hated it. A lot of people hated it, understand. But basically, when you are rebranding something, you give it a new identity. And that was what they were trying to do, for Nigeria at that time. Prior to this point, Nigeria had gone through several brand changes, which meant that Nigeria had gone through different identities. Before colonial rule, Nigeria as we know it today wasn't an amalgamated state. So for those of us who don't know about that, in 1914, Lord Frederick Lugard amalgamated the northern and southern protectorates of Nigeria, which meant that before 1914, they were separate entities. You understand? So instead, we had centralized states and decentralized people or groups all operating independent of each other. So all of these people, yes, were within the same region, but we operated independent of each other. And as a result, we all had symbols that represented our respective identities. So for example, the pre-colonial Oyo Empire alone had symbols like the elephant, which is Ajanaku, or how do I pronounce it? My Yoruba sister.
Ajanaku. That's correct.
Ajanaku.
You caught my eye, and I was trying to not open
So
my
that
open
let me
myself
know,
like that, but it's
let me know murder the language in front of
uh,
one of its own. Uh-huh. Which,
but yeah, one of its
to
own
be
as
fair,
well. You're forgetting.
shame on me because my mother is actually Yoruba, so I should be knowing these things. Uh, Fair enough. So the elephant was the totem of the kings and emperors of the Oyo people. The Sokoto Caliphate had a pretty similar symbol to what we have today, which was like a plain green flag that symbolizes the Prophet Muhammad's association with of that color with paradise, which implied a symbolic connection between the Sultan of Sokoto and the Prophet Muhammad, whom the Sultan claimed to have succeeded. The Benin Empire had the Adan Eben scepters as their identification symbols representing their royalty and respect for Ogun and their connections to the Oyo Empire. Igbos had the Ofo, which symbolizes authority. So they were just, these are just some of the groups that had an example of some of the groups who had their own diverse symbols that identified them. Seeing all these symbols must have been very confusing for Lord Lugard, who was then the Governor General and was responsible. The British had placed him responsible over these diverse nations, and he was supposed to put it into one nation. So his amalgamation wasn't complete without a single symbol to identify this newly united entity. So if you remember what we said about, the identity of people and what symbols, national symbols meant, it's meant to signify the identity and represent the values of this nation. So when he now finally made this bunch of strangers a nation, he needed something to signify this unity, this identity. And he saw it necessary to mark this new dispensation with something which was obtainable in his own country. So he brought something from the British and brought it to us. So from 1914 to 1960, Nigeria's national symbol was a British blue flag with a green six-pointed star described as the seal of Solomon, which was surrounding the Tudor crown. That crown was later changed to St. Edward's crown in 1953. And then the white word Nigeria under it in the red disc, and it was called the Union Jack.
So in essence, Lugard chose a flag that represents the brand he was trying to build in Nigeria, a colony of the British Empire. Correct? Do you see that?
Exactly. So, but with independence just around the corner, there was a need for some rebranding. So basically, the flag that we had represented colonial Nigeria. The identity
Mm.
was that of colonial Nigeria. So a new set of symbols that would signify
Mm-hmm.
the new Nigeria that was coming out to the world as an independent, sovereign nation, which was worthy to
Mm.
stand shoulder to shoulder with others in other independent and other sovereign nations. So while we have over 10 material and non-material national symbols today, as at 1960, there were only two, which needed
Mm.
to, which were needed basically to launch the independence movement. So
Mm.
this launching Nigeria to the world, and those two symbols were the national flag and the coat of arms. The first made in Nigeria symbols designed to celebrate the declaration of sovereignty on October 1st, 1960. So the flag and the coat of arms therefore constitute the most significant symbolic representations of ideals of Nigeria, the insignia of authority and state power. Yeah.
Oh, great. So we get the gist. So we get the gist now. So we are saying that we go from blue, white, red, green colors, which is
Yeah, the
on the
Union
Union
Jack.
Jack.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then now we're going from to green, white, green, right? So why the
Yeah.
change in colors and why the colors in particular?
So yeah, it started with a competition, and I must say this competition was very tough and
Mm,
very serious, basically.
mm,
Yeah.
mm, mm. You know, so how tough really? Because the results came out with only two colors. So how serious was it?
I mean, I see your point. Well, but it was serious enough for it to have like an entire committee set up to orchestrate the competition, which was set up to whole years prior to independence. So this competition started in 1958, and it was tough enough that it received over 2,000 entries. So everyone was working actively to ensure a smooth transition or into independence. Both the colonial authorities and the Nigerian authorities were involved in this process. So there was a lot of
Mm.
committees that were set up. There were a lot of conferences that were held. In 1957, for instance, there was the Constitutional Conference in London to draft the Independence Constitution. So you get the picture. There was a lot going on at the
Yeah,
same time. A lot of
yeah.
people were trying to you know, help and contribute to this new nation building. So a national planning committee was set up and tasked with the responsibility of finding the new flag.
Hmm. So a kind of MBGN, if you ask me, correct? So, but I wonder if they feel as pressured or as important as their colleague working on other important things like say the constitution, which had like to take all accounts of Nigeria's like, diversity and their peculiarities. Like, did they see the assignment of finding the next flag as something that required them to consider the entirety of Nigeria? Um,
Yeah, yeah. So while we cannot, I mean, I completely agree with you. And we cannot speak to the committee's thought process in that period, but we can speak of the results which they gave us, basically.
mm,
So to a large extent, those results reflected the history, rich tradition, culture, and values. So to a large extent, the new, national symbol, represented that. But before there were results, there was a competition, like we said. And in 1958, the planning committee called for a competition to select a national flag. There were 2,870 designs that were submitted, many of which had great complexity. And after a rigorous selection process, a choice was made, and the design of a 23-year-old London-based student from Ibadan was selected in 1959. His design was a flag of equal green, white, green vertical stripes. And what most Nigerians do not know is that the original design also included a red quarter sun on the white stripe as a symbol of divine protection and guidance. But this was omitted by the committee. The then Nigerian High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, M.A. Martins, liked this design and passed a proposal to adopt this design as the Nigerian national flag, which became official rather on Independence Day in October 1960. Yeah.
so I'm
Because of how diverse a people we were as a country, they didn't
just,
want any design that could have highlighted one or two, because no matter what you wanted to do, you couldn't highlight all the ethnic groups in Nigeria when you were
mm,
doing a
mm,
design, because we have almost how many languages spoken in
mm,
Nigeria. So they were trying to exclude designs that had some form of ethnic or religious groups, highlighted. So we have to
mm.
give credit to the committee and of course, late Taiwo Akinkumi for getting it right at the first attempt. So
Okay,
yeah, back to the
okay,
significance of the flag.
okay.
Yeah. So what about the colors green and white make the Nigerian flag inclusive, futuristic, relatable, and aspiring?
Mm. So basically, it's not just about the color, which in themselves are beautiful and classic, but more about what they stand for. Green stand for agriculture, the motherland of all occupations. It depicts the country's wealth based on the agricultural diversity, beautiful land, considering considering that agriculture is a main occupation of Nigerians. Caveats. Is that
I
what is
mean,
really representative of
it,
it? Was
no,
it was.
at the time it was
eh,
not
okay.
anymore.
Hmm. Okay. And Green acknowledges that we have all it takes to grow, which is very true. It is very true.
Yeah.
Till today, it is
Everything
still
we need,
very true. It's
everything we
still
need is
very
right before us. Yeah.
Thank you. And it said the white stands for unity, peace, and love. This acknowledges our diversity and inspires fraternity, right? Harmony, peace, and coexistence, and progress amidst this diversity. So, also, white is representative of River Niger that passes through the whole country and um,
Yeah.
invariably a part of its geographical identity. So, it is what
Yeah.
these colors mean that represents the history and aspirations of Nigeria and projects to the world as fertile, abundant, peaceful, hospitable, progressive, sovereign nation open to diverse investments, collaboration, and growth. What do you think?
Exactly. Yeah, cool stuff, basically. And we are not just saying this as two random people who have a podcast who are just trying to talk about it. But
Mm,
this is what the law actually says about the flag. This is what the flag actually represents by law when it was created. The Nigerian
mm,
flag isn't a symbol just because a competition was held and a 23-year-old who designed something fantastic was selected. It's a national symbol because the law of Nigeria says so. The national flag actually has legal backing and laws that guide it. You understand?
mm,
Um, yeah. So first of all, basically, the Nigerian national flag is governed by the flag and the coat of arms ordinance or number 48 of 1960. So normally the flag is not usually mentioned in a nation's constitution. So basically in a nation's constitution, the flag might not be mentioned, but it is mentioned in another law of a country, which is a secondary law. And this national Nigeria's national ordinance number 48 of 1960 is like a secondary law. It's a law that governs some details of procedures or conduct that are enforced by the government on the rules, regulations, or procedures guiding or governing the handling and usage of the newly designed national symbols at independence, binding the citizens of the country. So basically, these rules guide how the citizens of this new country that has emerged should handle and guide the flag. These rules are called the Flag Code of Nigeria. Now, as somebody who was preparing this, who was trying to work on this episode, I had never heard of the Flag Code of Nigeria up until the
me
episode
too.
of this podcast.
Hmm.
So this, like we said, those rules are called the Flag Code of Nigeria, and the national ordinance is a law equal to an act of parliament in an emergency situation or when the legislature is not in session. Basically, it is subject to the approval of the legislature. It is a law that empowers the National Orientation Agency, which is to celebrate Nigeria's national symbols on September 16th every year. I am also hearing for the first time that
Hmm.
Nigerian national symbols are celebrated on September 16th every year. And
Hmm.
the source for this information is the National Orientation Agency 2015. Any comments?
Noche,
Have you also heard of these things
noche.
before?
I've never heard of it. Does the regular students in class, do they know this?
I
Do
don't know.
they know this?
Maybe people that's maybe people that study government, but like that's very significant. That's not a significant part of our population. Majority of people might not have studied, like all science class students, for example, didn't study government. Then even in like art and social sciences, not all of them studied government, just some of them did. So maybe those who studied government or did some aspect of Nigeria, maybe I would love to ask one of them, but the rest of us, no,
You know
no, we
what?
did not.
You know why I'm asking? You know why I even said this? Because even when we were younger,
Yeah,
like I said, I grew up here. You have to know your
yeah.
history. Like you have to the point where even if you fail it, they'll tell you to go and repeat that thing. You have to go and repeat it. I'm telling you. Now things have
Yeah,
changed though. I'm talking about when we were in secondary school, like back in the day. I don't know what's going
yeah,
on right now, but I'm still sure it's still true. They have like regions, like a national, like let me because of the podcast, I can't tell you everybody my location. They'll come
yes,
and
yeah.
find me.
I beg, I beg, I
So
beg.
I
Just
mean,
general terms. She's in
general,
Washington D.C. That's where she is.
yeah, exactly. Usually, states require particular exams and they have subject exams. One of them is history. If you fail that history, you go back and repeat it. That's how it works. You go back and repeat it. So it's not like oh I'm going to medicine, I'm going to public, I'm going to this. I don't want to do it. No, you will do it.
You
And
do it, and then
you will do it. Yeah.
in our
So it's
own,
quite
it's our own
interesting.
leaders are removing history from the curriculum. They know what they are doing. They
You
removed
know
it
what
from the
they're
curriculum. They know
I'm
what they're doing,
telling
but
you.
that's conversation for
And then,
another day. The national ordinance contains specific instructions to guide respectful use of the Nigerian flag according to the law. Now I'm going to list some of these things. Again, some of them I'm hearing for the first time. So some of you would also hear them for the first time and realize you have been committing crimes. But let us talk about them. The first is the cloth material or the fabric which is used in producing the national flag must be of a very high standard and on a single material. This implies that it is not cut and joined fabrics that are used. So whichever fabric that you are using, it must be very high standard and it must be on a single material. No cut and join. Okay? The national flag should be screen printed as a single material, not sewn together of different colors of green, white, or of, just mere clothes. So
I have
basically,
a
the
question.
flag,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah.
What is that? What about during war-torn zones and the flag? You see, sorry, you know me, I'll be thinking I thought it was
Yes, so there, but we'll get to that. So we'll get to that because basically what they are saying is if the flag has been torn, don't hang it. The third one, while hosting the national flag, it should be ceremoniously and briskly flown in the morning during sunrise. That's 6 a.m. and at uh, lowered at sunset, basically 6 p.m. in the same manner because a flag of the national importance does not slip. So basically it must be flown either during the day, basically. Um, so when during the day it should not be down asleep. During the day it should be up. Then at night it should be lowered. At sunset it should be lowered. The national flag of Nigeria should be hung or half flown on days of state funerals or important memorial days. If in any case the flag is in a room, then no other flag should be placed higher than it. If the flag is torn out, it shouldn't be flown or used, but rather burned or destroyed. So if you're in a war-torn zone and your flag has been destroyed or torn out or it has been trampled upon, you should still not fly it. Does that answer your question? Yeah. So this is only for flags that have been torn out or partially destroyed. So it is like you are maintaining the dignity of the flag. You can't hoist a torn flag or a flag that has been trampled on or a flag that has been destroyed or torn. You understand? You can't have a flag that is destroyed hanging because it doesn't signify the dignity of the nation. So those flags should be disposed of, basically.
Do you know what I was even thinking about? I remember there are like some movies that
Yeah,
you watch about like war, and then there's always someone that's always
yeah,
carrying the flag, almost protecting the flag.
yeah,
Now that we're talking
yeah.
about this, you actually realize the significance of
Of
having
what
that
they are
flag,
doing.
that
Yeah,
what they are doing. Sometimes you don't really understand. You just wonder why is this guy carrying the flag up and down, and it's not
yeah. It's a
why
big deal.
everybody while everybody else is. I didn't realize it's such a okay, but yeah, go
Yes.
ahead, yeah.
And with what you just mentioned, we're going to talk about it later in the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Ways of helping people form that national identity or seeing
Mm,
the importance of the flag. Now, based on
mm,
that film, it's a film you watch, it's just a regular film, but you
mm,
already understand if you were American, it already shows you the importance of the flag of America.
mm,
You
mm,
understand? Just by watching a film, you are saying the way these people are protecting it, this thing must be important. We don't do
mm,
that in our own media.
mm,
You understand? So,
mm,
we'll come to that later on. It's an important,
mm.
I just felt it's because it's something that we'll talk about later on in the podcast. Um,
Mm,
so, the law makes it an offense for the national flag to be improperly used or displayed. Section 5 of the law states any person who flies or exhibits the national flag in a defaced or bad condition shall be guilty of an offense against the ordinance. So that is why flags who have been torn, defaced, or in bad condition should be disposed of because the law says that if you hoist that flag, you are committing a crime. Do you
mm,
understand?
mm,
So it must always be hung, not to be found laid flat horizontally, except on the casket of a deceased national hero. Now, even on
mm,
the case of the casket of deceased national hero, a license must be granted by the government before this is
mm,
done. This is due to the belief that Nigeria is alive, active, strong, and mobile and cannot fall or die. You
mm.
understand? So an exception when the national flag could be hoisted beyond the sunrise or in the night period is only during very important national events. An example
Yeah.
would be when the national football team is playing a football match in the night. But this must be done under flooded lights at night. So even when the flag is hoisted at night, it should be under floodlights,
Mm.
basically. Uh-huh. So the national
Does that
flag
happen
must,
all day? Sorry,
does that
after
happen?
I
No,
know.
feel free.
Not I always ask questions. Sorry. Eh?
Yeah,
So
please, please. That's the aim of the podcast.
does that mean that you know that sometimes? Okay, please correct me. When I was in
Yeah,
Nigeria, there's sometimes that I saw the flag there and it's not flood. There's no flooded lights on that thing.
exactly. Those people are committing crimes. That's what we're
And
saying.
why did when and why did I did not get
because they don't
reprimanded as
know.
such.
Because I'm
Mm,
telling you, there are people in the National Orientation Agency that don't know about this. The people that are supposed to be orienting us about this, I'm sure there are people in that agency that don't even know about this. Because from what I'm
mm,
hearing now, even people that just leave their flags up 24/7 are committing crimes against the
mm,
ordinance because you're supposed
mm,
to hoist it in the morning at 6 a.m.
mm,
and then bring it
mm,
down. So when we're
yeah.
NYC camp, they always did it. In NYC camp,
Mm,
they are soldiers, military. They always did it 6 a.m. Somebody will come and blow a trumpet and then the
mm.
flag is hoisted up. And wherever you are in the camp, once the flag is being hoisted up, you must stand at attention. And
Does that
then
does that
at 6 p.m., they do the same. Does that mean what?
does that mean that okay? It seems like for civilians there's an exception to this, but for military they must follow this rule. This rule
Or
is
they
that correct?
shouldn't be what is just saying is that military are doing the right thing and we are not.
That's what I'm trying to say.
You understand?
Is that what it is that an exception that civilians, because they don't know better, they're allowed to have this, you know, have these discrepancies here and there, and
Uh,
those who are in the
yeah.
military must abide with,
Yeah.
in
So I
the
think that
process.
before you can punish people for doing something, then they have to be aware about it. You
Mm,
understand? I think
mm,
that those in government are aware that those people are not fully aware. The military is something that is drummed into them from when they are probably in training
mm,
and all of that. So because
mm,
of that, they are fully aware of these things. You understand? We are not.
mm,
We are doing this podcast and we're learning all of this for the first time. So you understand?
mhm,
So these are things that we are not aware of. So
mm,
because of that, maybe that's why there's some leeway because it's common knowledge that maybe these people don't know, much about this. You
mm.
understand?
But what about
uh
government institutions like the bank,
Exactly.
like
They
this?
should be.
They
They
should
should be. Oh,
be
well, technically, government banks are private institutions
okay,
that so maybe like CBN now, the central
okay,
bank
okay,
is a government institution, so those
okay.
should be fully aware. But even
Yeah.
private institutions should be aware. Big institutions
Mm,
like that should be
of
aware
course.
about these
Of
things,
course.
and they are probably not.
What about churches in Nigeria? Because they're
So
quite
for
big.
those that
Now
hoist,
that's
yeah,
easy, by the way, because of
yeah,
how big
no, no,
they
no,
can be.
fair enough. So most of them don't. A lot of them don't hoist the flag. But if you are going to hoist the flag, then you should do it
Mm,
the right way. But I'm
mm,
sure that a lot of them who do are not doing it
don't
the
know.
right way.
Because,
You
God is the
understand?
country and God must, anyway, in different reasons,
You
know.
understand? You understand? And so we'll get to something about that. So um, they said the national flag must always be hoisted in the day and the night because light brings about unity, peace, faith, and progress, while darkness implies disunity, hopelessness, and war. So that's the mindset behind the flag being flown during the day or where there's bright lights. You understand?
Mm, mm-hmm,
So it must be hoisted at the peak or at the top of the post outside public
mm,
buildings.
mm,
So it cannot be, if it's going to be hoisted, it has to be at the peak or at the top of the pole. It can
mm,
only be hung half mast during like memorial days or funerals, like we had said earlier.
mm,
The national flag, when hung in a room or anywhere, no other flag, emblem, or insignia should be placed higher than the national flag. So if your association has a flag, your flag should be lower than the Nigerian national flag. So the national flag must always be in front. So not only must it be higher, it must be in front where
mm.
there are two or more flags that are not national flags in
So
the room.
that,
So for example, if you walk with, yeah,
that doesn't happen all the time. That doesn't
it
happen. I
doesn't happen
see it a
any of the
lot.
time. What is all the time? Does not happen any of the
Oh, I
time.
have to
Not
give leeway for those who do it. I don't want to be too,
yeah. So even if there are two flags, if there are two or more
Mm,
flags, first the
mm,
national flag must be higher than the other flag. Then if there are two
mm,
or more flags, it should be in front
mm,
of those flags.
mm,
You understand? hmm
mm.
So in a
But what
hall
about,
auditorium, yeah,
embassies? They don't do that. I've seen embassies that
interesting.
don't do that.
That's
Mm-hmm.
interesting because they
Mm.
should be the ones, in
They
fact, that
should
should
do,
be doing this.
exactly. Yeah.
So in a hall, auditorium, or before an audience, the national flag must be on the right hand side of the first
Mm-hmm.
row. You
Mm,
understand? So
mm,
in a situation where a group of flags are displayed, the Nigerian flag must be at the center apart from being in the front. So when there is a bunch of flags, let's say 10, 15 flags are being displayed, the Nigerian flag must be at the center of all of those flags and must be just a little bit in front. So it must be ahead
Mm.
of the flag. On the occasion when a speaker is on the platform, the national flag must be on the speaker's right hand side as he or she faces the audience, while other flags should be at the left side or in subordinate positions. On funeral occasions, remember the national distas, the flag flown half mast. We've said that a national flag that is dirty, tattered, old, torn, and mutilated must not be hung. It is an offense
Mm.
to hoist that national flag in a defaced or bad manner. So to dispose of a disused or torn national flag must be with utmost decent and respectful manner. So even if you are destroying it, it must be done in a
Mm.
respectful manner. I don't know how you
Mm.
destroy something respectfully, but that's what they are telling
Thank
us to do.
you. Thank you. I'm just thinking. That's subjective. But go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very subjective. So the display or hoist of a national flag on an official vehicle must be mounted centrally on the radiator cap or attached to the right fender of the vehicle chassis. Whew,
Hmm.
that's a lot of things we have been doing wrong.
That's a lot. Not yet. A lot has been said. A lot has been digested.
Yeah,
Okay. So this is really a huge knowledge gap, right, on this subject of the national flag, because
yeah,
we knew that a flag has to be printed out on one piece of cloth, not cutting and sewing together different pieces of green and white fabrics, but which, by the way, is an offense, or that
yeah,
flying a torn and defaced flag is a crime, which many institutions are guilty of, like we spoke about
yeah,
earlier. They're guilty of
yeah,
flying these flags anyway. Yeah. So
mm,
on to
yeah.
Michael Taiwo Akinkunmi.
Yeah, so it is the ignorance about our national symbols that makes us as Nigerians
Mm,
use them wrongly. Like I said,
mm,
the National Orientations Agency's job is supposed to orient us on these symbols, why they're important, how we should handle them. But
mm,
there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. So if we
mm.
fail to acknowledge the flag we see every day, how much more do we do the man behind the flag who Nigeria easily forgets?
So um, as Konache was saying, I agree. Late Taiwo Akinkunmi designed the national flag in 1958, but it is often not remembered, and when he isn't remembered for more than that. Why is that?
Yes.
What do you think?
Yeah. I don't know. We first of all, like I said, we don't know much about our history, so a lot of people don't even know him. And
Mm,
then if he was a figure who was very spoken about in our history, talked about a lot more, given the accolades he deserves, then people would know that he was just not somebody that designed the flag, but he actually had an actual life and a career, and he was much more than that. But,
mm.
now that's the aim of the podcast. Who was Taiwo Akinkunmi? Can we get to know him?
So Michael Taiwo Akinkunmi was born May 10th, 1936. Although an indigene of Ogun State, Owu, in Abeokuta to be precise, he was born and raised in Ibadan, Oyo State. His father was a civil servant, his father was a civil servant and his mother a trader. His name, Taiwo, actually means he was a twin, but his twin unfortunately died at birth. So he grew up briefly in the north before returning to complete his education in the west at Baptist Day School in Idi Ikan, Ibadan, for his primary school. And he completed the secondary education at Ibadan Grammar School, IGS, in 1950, where he enjoyed a very good education. I mean, he had to, because the school is famous for producing the likes of Ken Namani, Namani, Alex Ibru, Bola Ige, Michael Adenuga, and other great Nigerians.
Mm,
After his graduation from IGS in 1955, Akikumi, at 19 years old, started his career as an agriculturist at the Western Region Secretariat in Ibadan as a civil servant. He worked there for some years before gaining admission to the Northwood Technical College, currently Lambeth College in London, where he studied electrical engineering. What do you
mm.
say?
Yeah. Yeah, so hearing a lot about his agricultural background and his
mm,
work in the agricultural department in his career
mm,
gives some insight into why, he
mm,
thought about the green in the
mm,
Nigerian flag and why it appears twice there. He was probably partial to agriculture. What can I say?
mm. Very true, very true.
Yeah.
And whatever the case, while studying in London, Akinkumi came across an advertisement in the library calling for entries on designs of the national flag. From the diaspora, he mailed his entry through Nigerian High Commission in London, and about a year later, he received a letter from the London office of the Commissioner for Nigeria in the UK, informing him that his submission emerged best from the pool of 2,870 designs. Describing his design process, Mr. Akikumi once said, I took details of what is to be expected to the design, a flag that would be used by a country that was about to witness its independence. I took part in the competition and my design was selected as the best in the year 1958. Mr. Taiwo Akikumi was given a monetary reward of cash prize of £100, right? I wonder how much that would be today.
Yeah,
I
I
really
think
wonder.
I did a calculation. I think it's about 2000 and something pounds. I remember when we were preparing for it, I did a quick Google search. £100 in 1958, what would be the equivalent? I think it's about 2000 and something pounds right now, which
You
is
mean
still
in
not enough.
dollars or in naira?
No, pounds, 2000 pounds, like 2000 and something pounds today.
Today.
£100 then will be about 2000 and
Okay, so
something
two
pounds
thousand. Okay,
today.
so that £2,000 is still not much actually.
That's why I say it's
Yeah,
still not that much money at the end
yeah,
of the day.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
still not much. Which was the official currency in the country at that time, and a great fortune that time too. And that was it. No other national honor or recognition at independence. When the Union Jack was finally lowered and the flag he designed was hoisted, it was like a ghost writing gig, sort of. You've done your part, right? It's like you've received your reward and that's it. Um, there wasn't even an explanation for why the red emblem in the center was taken out. Can
Yeah.
you
And
imagine? It's
yeah, and
like,
we
oh yeah,
mentioned
oh,
this
you
earlier.
finish, oh yeah, bye bye, what's do?
Get out.
Oh yeah, get out.
Yeah, yeah. And we mentioned this earlier. Like, they didn't even go into detail telling us why they selected it, why they did this, and why this was
Mm,
removed. Nothing.
mm,
You understand? And as somebody who is a writer, I always considered myself it would be very difficult for me to do a ghostwriting gig because just having my work out there, people acknowledging my work, but not being able to acknowledge that I did it. I don't know
mm.
how I would feel about it. So if I did make like a lot of money, shit ton of money, and I didn't get the recognition I deserved, I don't know if I would be seated comfortably. And then he
Mm,
now didn't get that much money and still
mm,
didn't get the recognition. I think that's terrible.
mm, mm.
Yeah, I
Honestly,
think that's terrible.
I can just imagine, imagine practicing and not getting the recognition you deserve. What do you think?
Exactly.
But, yeah. Well,
That's not nice at all.
it's not. Well, he wasn't going to sit around waiting for recognition. He completed his education in London, moved back to Nigeria in 1963, and as the true embodiment of the flag he designed, Mr. Akikumi returned to the agricultural department at the Secretariat in Ibadan to continue where he stopped. He rose through the ranks in civil service until he retired in 1994.
Anyway, 1994 is a long time ago. So how did he fill up the rest of his life until his death in 2023?
Do you know what? Before we even step into that, I was thinking to myself, how come we
Mm-hmm.
don't have a system in place in Nigeria that recognizes these people? Why? Like, why? Did they
So
have to die?
again, I
Did they have to die? Like, why?
see the problem is even when they die, we don't even recognize them properly, which is a problem. And I think that again, it goes back to how we see these symbols. So if our national symbols are seen as a matter of genuine pride, as it is in
Mm,
other countries, then we would
mm,
actually hold the people that design these things to a high standard. You understand? So for
mm,
example, people might not care that you design the flag and so what, because the flag
mm,
isn't held as a genuine symbol that unites us, as
mm,
at least most of the time. Which is why when you now have periods which we will talk about that you go through, that actually the flag means something, it's very different. And then
mm,
people might actually want to know who is responsible for this. You understand?
mm,
Or the national anthem or the pledge. If when we said the pledge of Nigeria, because you're saying something, I pledge Nigeria, my country, to be faithful, loyal, and honest, to serve Nigeria, all those things that we're saying. If we genuinely mean those things, then we would want to know the origins behind those. But
very
we
true.
genuinely don't care about our national symbols. And maybe that's why if we don't care about the symbol itself, then why would we care about the person that
Mm.
was originating it in the first place?
Very true. I agree with you, and I think it just brings up the question of what is a national identity? What is a Nigeria, and what is that? And I think that's really the point of this whole episode. Really, it's just to start this conversation. So back to Akikomi. So in summary, Akikomi lived most of his life neglected by the Nigerian government and Nigerians for his significant contribution in our country. He lived a peaceful life with his family in Ibadan until he died. But he had a few highlights, such as winning 2 million naira on the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire game show in 2012. Did people even know that he was who he was at that time? You
Yeah,
can just
I think he
imagine.
did. I think he did one of those. Because on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, I think they had ones that, um, quote and unquote celebrities would come and win money for other people. So possibly, maybe
Okay,
that's when
okay.
he was. I don't think he would have just come to contest by himself. But obviously, they
Mm,
should have at least said. They would definitely have said that.
mm. So the money he
Yeah,
used to build his house in Ibadan, which he painted the Nigerian flag, a real patriot. Do you know? I even wonder,
yeah.
this house that was painted, are they preserving it so that others can come and see it?
Preserve my sister.
Ah,
Preserve
my
what?
Lord. You see,
Preserve
I'm
what?
just,
Hey, God.
hey, ah,
Human beings never chop. We're talking of preservation. I mean, it's, it's important. It's important that we should
mm-hmm,
preserve these things. But like,
mm,
we are so far away from even thinking about preserving these things. Like,
mm,
it's crazy. Some people are trying, there are some people are trying. Basically, there's this, website that I saw, Archive in Nigeria, that are trying to preserve like newspapers in Nigeria from 1860 something up to 2024. So there are people who are working to preserve
mm,
certain things, but they are all
mm,
private. I don't think the government is
mm,
doing much about it. And then if the
mm.
government isn't doing much about it, then nothing much can be done.
So, piggybacking on what I'm saying here, so can it be seen in two ways?
Gate
It's nice to have a
Gatekeeping,
treasure,
basically.
gatekeeping. Yeah. Should we gatekeep these things, or should we put a system in place whereby we preserve it and at the same time know that there should be structures in place to kind of put tourists in check so that they don't do the wrong
Yeah,
things? Like,
I
yeah,
think it's a
it's.
little bit of I think it's a little bit of both. So
Mhm,
like what you said is important. Not just Florence in Italy. I've heard like a couple of other places where they say the
mhm,
tourists. So like if tourists are coming, you need to limit the amount of tourists that are there. Then the people who are
mhm,
there need to be under strict, no illusions. They should understand this is what we're trying to do here. If you
mhm,
go across board, we kick you out instantly,
mhm,
because this is
mhm,
why we think it's important. We need to preserve these things, and these
mhm,
things are important. And you wouldn't do what you're doing here in your home. You understand?
mhm,
So
mhm,
it's important for people to know, but I think we need a little bit of preserving these
mhm.
things so that it's accessible to the world, but not in a way that the world can just come and take over everything and ridicule what we're doing. So I think I agree with you, to your point, basically.
So back to Akikumi again. We digressed. So
Uh,
yes,
uh,
he did win 2 million naira at Who Wants to Be a Millionaire in 2012. And the money he used to build his house in Ibadan was painted the Nigerian flag, like we said. So he was a real patriot, as you can see. So after decades, he was finally honored by the National Award of the Officer of the Order of the Federal Republic, OFR, on 29th September 2014 by Goodluck Jonathan administration and placed on monthly salary till death, in addition with an official car. And in 2021, he on, unveiled the world's largest flag in Ibadan. Hmm. Way to
that's
go.
nice. So he broke records. He had been breaking records
Mm,
long before the cookathons and the hackathons and all the other thons that Hilda Bassi unleashed on Nigeria. As soon as Hilda Bassi did that thing, all the other tons became this thing. The Chef
Mm,
Dami did her own cookathon. I attended a
mm.
massageathon. I don't think
Oh,
those
really?
people
Massager.
end up. Yes, he was trying to massage people for 3 days, and I got a free. I did absolutely,
Oh,
absolutely.
wow. Okay,
Yes,
that's interesting. Okay.
I'm supporting the business. I'm supporting the dream.
Okay,
So
nice. Nice one.
yeah, so long before all of these atoms, Akunkumi was already breaking world records.
Mm,
So that was a fair pass for the Nigerian government. At least towards the end, they did put him on the salary and, an official car and all of that.
mm,
But the real neglect came after his death on 29th of August 2023. Now, after being neglected by the government for over 50 years during his lifetime, his family had no interest in delaying his funeral beyond December 2023. So he died in August 2023. His family were trying to bury him in December 2023. However, in November, the Oyo state government and federal government informed his family of plans to give their father a state burial, which is obviously what he deserved.
mm,
Now, this made them move the burial plans to March 2024. Remember, he died in August 2023. They moved his burial plans to March 2024. Unfortunately, the government went silent and several attempts to make contact failed. Tired of waiting and wanting to put their father to rest, the family finally buried him in Oyo State on 7th September 2024, over
mm,
a year after he died,
mm. Wow.
with some 11th hour support from the Oyo State government under Shea Maginde. Not a
Mm,
dime or peep from the federal government was heard.
mm. Ah, this is really sad, honestly. Like,
It is.
this is really, really sad. But on the bright notes of all this, his family will forever remember him as an amazing father. And in the words of his son in an interview with the Republic, my father was proud to be a Nigerian despite not getting the sort of recognition he deserved. I think that um, I think that is a true essence of patriotism. And although he didn't deserve to be our example this way, he is definitely an example worth emulating, right?
Yeah, and he absolutely is. And I would tell my friends who know me, the people I'm talking to, they know themselves because I say this a lot. And sometimes it's even difficult for me because, like, I consider myself a very patriotic Nigerian. Part of the reason
Mm-hmm.
why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I love this country, even though this country does not love me back. And I know that my friends always say it all the time. It's like, um, this country knows send your papa. You understand? And it's the truth. But like, I do love this country. And like, Pa Akinkumi, it was not
Mm-hmm.
about the recognition. He didn't get the recognition that he deserved, but he still painted his house, green, white, green. And then he still, unveiled the world's largest flag at the time in 2021 because he was genuinely proud of
Mm,
what he had done for this country. And he was genuinely patriotic towards this country. And I think
mm,
that the country can only move forward when the inhabitants of the country, the people of the country actually feel that way about their
mm,
country. So he understood what his identity as a Nigerian was. So what's the perspective of the Nigerian identity, both here in Nigeria, and then I'll ask you, you in the diaspora,
mm,
basically. So according to David Butts, exposure to the national symbols of one's country can impact the attitudes, actions of of the people because they hold potential to represent the strong emotional attachment felt for one's nation. So if people are adequately, repeatedly exposed to the national symbols of our country, it can impact our attitudes and actions because they
mm,
hold the potential to represent strong emotional attachment for the nation. So he believes that national symbols are a vital element of political psychology. We can definitely say this was the case for Pa Taiwo Akinkume. But as a Nigerian, how would you evaluate the level of exposure to your national symbols, especially the flag, and what effect it has and the level of exposure it has on you? I would ask you, but first let me answer as a Nigerian living in Nigeria. First of all, there's barely any exposure. And I agree
mm,
with what this David Bott says because, for example, for those of us in Nigeria now that are
mhm.
online, Temu just came to Nigeria and that is all we see. The adverts are everywhere.
So
TikTok,
who came to Nigeria
YouTube,
again? Sorry.
Instagram.
So who came to?
I think it's Temu, the shopping
Mm.
website, TEMU.
Okay, Tamo. Okay.
Yeah, Temo. Yeah, Temo. I didn't even know who Temu was until I saw their adverts everywhere. And now even
Mm.
me that adverts do not convince me to get anything before. I am convinced to buy some things on Temu because of how much I
Mm.
have seen the
Mm.
adverts going
Mm.
off and on. And that is what David Bott is saying. If you
Mm.
expose people, especially from a young age, especially children, to this, they should be exposed to our identities. National orientation agencies should be running ads with the money that the
Mm.
government gives them. They should be
Mm.
running ads the way Temu. In fact, they should call the owner, the marketer of Temu, hire
Mm.
that person. Run
Mm.
ads about the
Mm.
importance of this thing. Put it in our
Mm.
faces. If you do that for
Mm.
10 years, the next
Mm.
generation, their views of the identity and our national symbols will be different.
Mm.
You
Mm.
understand?
You
So
know,
what
I
are
have.
your views on the levels of exposure?
Did you know that? Did I have a two pointer take? When I was in
Okay.
growing up in Nigeria as a very, very little kid, I don't know, I had a very strong sense of nationalism for some reason. Why?
Okay.
Because like when we
Okay.
were younger, like I remember Tales by Moonlight. Like they used to tell us, do you know Tales
Oh
by Moonlight?
yeah. Yeah, I do. I do.
Like I remember those shows like AIT. I remember like when I was younger, like we watched these little things, and you see the national when on national TV, they have national TVs, and then they have different dances to symbolize different tradition and cultures, and then you feel like
Yeah.
you're part of it, and they always show the flag
Yeah.
a lot. Now I don't know what happens. Like I can't speak on that note, and also given the age of technology, not like the age whereby it was constantly sitting on TV and a stream. Now everything is like on your phone and you don't really need to sit at at the TV a lot. And I remember there were even during even our parents' generation, I remember there were times whereby, the TV would come on, everybody would gather. There's a moment to gather. And that kind of symbolized a form of unity. It didn't matter where you were from, everybody wanted to watch the news and watch, current events and things like that.
Yeah.
So now coming here, and there's a shift, even as a young person, as a young child coming here as well, there's also a shift as well, identifying yourself. What am I? I don't have the general Black American experience. I definitely have a Nigerian experience. What am I? So therefore, I have to also put for a very Nigerian take because we have like values that are very, very strong that kind of makes us be who we are today. So therefore, I was always exposed. And then another thing is that people always be like, "Oh, you don't know your language. You don't know this. You don't know. You didn't kunle. You didn't dobale. You didn't cook this properly. You didn't do this." So because of those
Yeah.
things, I needed to like brace up, brush up, and know those things for myself. I mean, I've not been to an Independence Day parade. I've not. I have friends who have. I've not been there, but I've always had like a sense of nationalism, even by exporting even import of Nigerian videos, the old Nollywood of days, the Genevieve Nigeria of days, like you kind of felt a sense of like, of unity, of like of a sense of, oh, I'm home and things like that. So that's my take on it. Yeah, that's all.
You know, I had this conversation with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
and we we were talking about how no Nigerian has a sense of pride and pride and joy in their identity as a Nigerian than a Nigerian living in diaspora. The dream of the average Nigerian is to love Nigeria from afar. Because when you
Mm,
are removed from the day-to-day realities of the average Nigerian in Nigeria, it's
mm,
easy for you to focus on these symbols and what it means and what it means to you,
mm,
especially when you are an outsider in another person's country. Now it's easy
mm,
for you people to bond abroad because
mm,
you are all you've got.
mm,
However, our everyday experiences as Nigerians living in Nigeria is
mm,
completely different. I
mm.
can't, it's a miracle that I still love this country when police officers have put a gun on my head because they
Can
were
this is true?
driving on the wrong,
Can this true?
yes,
Is it true?
yes, on the wrong, I'm telling you, you just go on Twitter and look at people's story. I'm talking my own personal story. They were driving on the wrong side of the road and diverted directly into my lane to come to the right side of the road. and they almost hit me. And all I said is that how to drive? That was all I said.
Candy,
And
you said it. Do
yes,
okay.
as a citizen, am I supposed to keep quiet? You almost killed me. That's what happened. You swerved from one, this is dual lane on this side, which
Mm,
there was a barricade in between. And then, do you know this place is where you can turn? Basically, they just swerved they were driving one way on the other lane and just
mm.
swerved into my lane and almost hit me. And I said, is that how to drive? And the next thing I see them swerving into my front to block me off. So the car stops and they tell me to calm down and they say it again. And I'm like, is
Say
that
it
how to
again.
drive?
Wait, hold
Yes,
on. Did I say it again?
say it again. I said, is that how to drive? And the next thing he does is crack his gun and put it on me. And I'm like, because I'm like, first of all, you were driving on the wrong side of the road. As the person that's supposed to uphold law and order, you
Mm.
are driving on the wrong side of the road. And then you are cracking your gun to threaten me. So now you want to shoot me because you were doing the wrong thing. And this was in broad daylight.
In broad daylight, I even thought,
And I'm
as
telling
you were
you,
talking, I was actually
it was not in
imagining
the night.
night.
It's not in the night.
Wow.
Broad daylight. I was going to
Wow.
register for NYSC. I remember that day so clear because I've never been shoved. The gun has never been shoved at me before. You understand? I remember that day so clearly. I was going to 2022, December. I was going to register for NYSC. I'll be November 2022.
Mm.
And then you shove a gun in my face. One of them hits me on my head. And me, the truth is, I used to be
I'm
very
sorry.
calm and
Can't be
quiet.
like,
I'm not, I'm not as calm as I was as a child. So I spoke back. Now, the truth is,
mm,
I wasn't thinking as much at the time because as they were
mm.
shouting, I was shouting back.
Oh,
And
wow.
then
I think
after
it's
a
just the
while,
frustration is just the,
yes, that's what I'm saying. People gathered and then they left. Now,
oh,
people
wow.
have died for less at the hands of the Nigerian police. Do you understand? It was later it dawned on me how lucky I was that I didn't get
Mm,
shot. You
mm,
understand? Because people have been
mm,
shot for less by Nigerian police and they are not held accountable. How then
mm,
do you want me to romanticize this country?
mm. I have a question for you. What about us here?
Yeah,
That these things happen to us that
yeah.
are
So
blacks.
the difference
It's
is
like
this in
I
my,
don't know, it's like quite complex here. Oh. Some
yeah,
blacks have not experienced these things at all in their life. They'll be looking at you
yeah,
like, what is this? This is not an experience. And there are others that have experienced this and it's so bad. And it's
bad.
almost like
Yeah.
the only way you can do it, the only way you can, the racism is at every level. Even if you're black and you're wealthy, there's still issues at every level. You just kind of like take what it is and you just keep moving and just keep, like, so I wonder why are we here and we're still
So,
fantasizing American dream. Why is
so
this
two
still like,
things.
why?
Two things why is that as bad as it is in America, and it is bad, don't get me wrong. America is still the best place for you to be as a black person when it comes to anywhere in the world. Because
Mm.
as bad as it is for you, I assure you it's worse in other places. That's
But
number
what
one.
about in the
Number
UK?
two, yeah, the UK too is the same things you face in the US is the same thing they face. The only difference is
That's true.
that there are less guns on the
Mm,
streets
mm,
in the US. So the
mm,
police is not going to be stabbing you. I know the
mm,
police are there are less guns, there's less gun
mm,
crime because they have stricter gun control in the
mm,
UK. So that's why those
mm,
things don't happen as much. You
mm,
understand? But it still happens there. Now, the difference between that is that at least it's all of them is bad, but at least in racism, the white man has constructed, as Chimamanda has said, constructed himself to be so different from the black man that he's like, I am white, you are black, and for that I'm going to discriminate against you. You understand?
mm,
It's a ridiculous thing to say, but at least there is a difference in appearance, and that's why they think. In our own, it is people who look exactly like me,
mm,
people who speak my language
mm,
that are after my life,
mm,
people who are suffering as much as I do. My
mm,
salary is probably more, as small as
mm,
it is, than the police
mm,
officer's salary. When I went
mm,
out to protest in NSAS, I was fighting for you just as much as
mm,
I was fighting myself. And you
mm,
are still the one that is threatening my life. And for me, tribalism is just as ridiculous as racism. And there's no excuse because at least
mm,
for the white man can say he's different race. That even though race is just a concept in my opinion, it's the same way it is. But like somebody who looks exactly like me, who we eat the same food, speak the same language, has still decided to ridicule me or, put me in a certain light. And that's not just, I'm not just talking about tribe. I'm talking about like people in offices, like the police officer, people who are supposed to uphold the law. You are now treating me a certain way. People who are supposed to be my lecturers, or like women, for example, who their teachers are sexually harassing them in school. You have to sleep with somebody before you pass an exam. And there's no justice in Nigeria. So those of us in Nigeria cannot be romanticizing how wonderful this country is, because there's no justice across board. There's no justice for the poor man. Let me put it that way. You understand? And 90% of us are poor. So what are you saying? You understand? There's no justice. So I cannot, as much as I love this country, I will not soliloquize about the greatness of this country, because we aren't. We are not great. And I understand that people in the US or in the UK, the difference is that you guys are already discriminated against by other people. The only thing you have is to bond. So in the US, if you see another Nigerian that is from Bayelsa, or you see another Nigerian that is from Sokoto, you don't care. That
Yeah,
person is just another Nigerian.
Yeah.
That's not the case here. That's not the case here. You understand? So I think that's why it's like that.
Sorry, I just, while
You
you were
understand?
talking, I was just thinking of, I just want to, I don't want to get all Christianese here. I just remember there's a psalm in the Bible. Talking about history, we're talking about psalm now. God help our souls.
Christianese is wild. Christianese is
So,
wild. Fair
sorry,
enough.
this is
I
what
hear
they,
you.
sorry, but this is what
I
the
hear you.
terminology they use now. So, Gen Zs will definitely
Yeah.
watch it. So I want them to, tap into the vibe
They
here.
get it. Let them get it.
Get
Fair
it,
enough.
let them get it.
Yeah.
So I remember that there's this psalm, I think it's Psalm 55 or something, 51 or what. Remember there's like this somewhere David was like, oh, that my enemy is not the enemy that we dine, sorry, it's not the enemy that I know, like Goliath that I know, but it's the enemy that I don't know that I know that is so close to me. The one
That
that is
is
so close,
dining with me. We they
dining with
chop
me.
together.
Yeah, we're eating, we're doing everything. That's the enemy.
Yes.
That's he's not saying
That
that
the one they
God.
pay me with that.
Thank you. That's the one that is paining me the most. That if I had
Yes.
known, I would even know how to even attack it now. It's
Yeah.
like, am I not David that knows how to, do all these things and, come back? I was the one that defeated Goliath now. So how come me, I don't know? But it is those ones that are so close to you that are, you know, taking, that even will pray for you, that will pray with you. I mean, so yeah, sorry. That's what
Yeah.
I just remembered.
No,
Yeah.
so I agree with you. So I think that's why because we started talking about it because of the identity was what we're saying,
Mm,
the Nigerian
mm,
identity. Why
mm,
those of you people outside have a different
mm,
perception of their identity. And I'm saying
mm,
our experiences every day in this
mm,
country do not permit us to romanticize what this country is. We know what this
mm.
country is. It's a country that's after our life, full stop.
Mm,
There is
mm,
no aspect of the way this country is designed right now that is designed to help. Even the things that were designed to help us. For example, I went to a public university. Public education is supposed to be, because our education is way cheaper than it
mm.
is. The degree that I have, if you were to get it in the US, you're spending thousands of dollars
Oh yeah,
to
oh yeah.
get that. And might probably be, if you don't have a scholarship or something, might end up in debt. I did. But
Mm-hmm,
however,
mm-hmm,
what it is that while I have quality teachers,
mm-hmm,
as a doctor, for example, now, I have quality lecturers, people that can
mm-hmm,
teach me. They know the stuff, but the
mm,
instruments to use to teach me are not
hmm,
available. So
Why is
while
that?
yes, the
And you're
education is,
constructing
yeah,
all
so
those
education
buildings.
is cheap. Education is cheap. Yes, you should be proud that your country but education, the reason why I can be good at the education is because I have to go an extra mile. My teachers
Mm,
who are knowledgeable have to go an extra mile. You have people that will go abroad, go to Ghana, go to this place, go and train to be vascular surgeons. then come back to Nigeria, and the things they need to actually save lives is not there.
Why? Why?
It's the government now, as far as I'm concerned. The people who are responsible are not doing what it is. So even the things that the country that has designed that is supposed to help us, the citizens, are not really helping us as it should at the end of the day. So almost everything in this country is designed to kill us, to make us worse off.
Mm,
You understand? Everybody's just looking for
mm,
money. We glorify money in this country.
mm,
Politicians do not care. They
mm,
want us to remain poor so that they can remain in power. You understand?
mm,
Because it's only if when we are poor that they can bring 5K on election day and we'll listen to them. So because
mm.
of that, it is hard for me to romanticize this
But
country.
I have
I
wait. I
feel
still
proud to be a member of this
do you know
country.
not like not do you know I still have a problem. People will still say
Yeah.
there's a supply issue. There's a supply issue. Do you know I still don't
Yeah.
believe it till today.
Hmm.
To me, I don't believe it. You know why I don't believe it? No,
Why?
I know. But everybody will laugh at me. Everybody laughs at me.
No, no,
Debola,
feel
no,
free.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it because
Why?
you know why? Everybody. How many churches do you see when you turn left and right? How many churches do you see there?
Yeah, fair enough.
How many how many people have what's it called grocery stores that are stocking groceries all over the place? How many people are doing that? A lot of people have that grocery store that are stocking groceries.
Yeah,
How many
but
people are there,
yeah,
right? I don't still believe. I still don't be like. I feel like there's like. I know people don't want to believe me. No, they're like I'm being very stubborn. I just feel like there's something wrong, and I don't think it's at the government. Like I don't want to be like. Okay, yes, it's government, but I feel like
yeah,
really like.
it's not only at the it's not only at the government. There's something wrong with the average Nigerian. That's just the truth. The average Nigerian is, you see, there's something they say about, like, politics and corruption. The average Nigerian is not angry that the government is stealing. They are just angry that they are not part of the government that is stealing. You understand?
Wow.
So our psyche,
Okay.
that saying that people don't hate oppression, they just hate being oppressed. That's the average Nigerian for
Hmm.
you. So
Hmm.
we're not very good people. The difference why I blame the government is that change starts from the top. If the
Hmm.
government ensures that there is justice, if you steal, you do this. If you do this, you are caught. If you do this, you are caught.
Hmm.
There's punishment for it. Then the
Hmm.
people's psyche will change.
Hmm.
You understand? So the
Hmm.
problem is that the average Nigerian, see, there are people, I will go to the market, fellow Igbo men like me, or somebody that, hey, your mother, you have Yoruba, your mother is Yoruba, and they will cheat me poha in the market. You understand? As in my family members are supposed to be, they will cheat me because it's money that is the order of the day. You understand? So that is where the problem is our psyche as the average Nigerian. We're not proud of who we are because, like I said, the country is just, it does its best to kill us
You
every
know.
day. You see wedding day, they will give
Hmm.
somebody food to share. That
Hmm.
person will go home with one drum of meat and they will tell
Exactly.
people inside the wedding that the food has finished. That
Exactly.
is the
At
average Nigerian
the
for you.
simplest level. Yeah. Mm.
So it is a character issue that
Mm.
is going to take generations to clear. I think that two ways that it can be solved: one at the government level, one at the family level. You
Mm.
understand? So we need to start educating our family.
Mm.
Teach children by your life. First of all, if you're a thief, you can't teach somebody not to thief. If you are cheating
Mm.
somebody, you can't teach somebody not to cheat.
Of
You
course.
understand? So by yourself, we need to fix ourselves. Then the government needs to ensure
Mm.
they fix themselves and they ensure that
Mm.
there are checks and balances. So if you make a
Mm.
mistake, if you do something, there is justice.
Mm.
That is the only way. That's the
Okay.
only way. Anyway, I don't know how we got here. We don't go far from where we were in the podcast. Oh my God. Anyway, where were we?
The level of exposure you were. So I was saying that it was
Yeah.
sad.
So
Sad.
that's what we're
Sad.
trying to say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's what we're trying to say. Why, like, you were talking of, like, even there, you guys have like flags. You guys have like even Independence Day parades, even all the way there. You understand? While we here,
Mm-hmm.
anyway. So basically, the level of exposure to these national symbols, like the flag, is very
Mm-hmm.
important.
Mm.
when trying to connect with citizens, to flush out apathy, to drive nationalism. This is a code that a country like the US has cracked and is working for them. National flags are assumed to be imbued with psychological meaning, condensing the history, the memories associated with one's nation, and embodying what the nation stands for. They are often appropriated to achieve the aim of, oneness, a collective nationalistic response to outsiders or outgroups. You understand? So, for instance, after, events like 9/11 or the Gulf War of 1991, there's an increase in flag display that was observed. And then similar to the increase in the display of, flag after the NSAS protest. But NSAS is part of the reason why, when we're talking about like national identity and all, during that period, as somebody who went out to protest on almost every single day, the flag meant something.
Mm.
That's the one time that being a Nigerian meant something to me as a Nigerian living in Nigeria. That was the only
Really?
time that I genuinely, yes, felt that there could be change.
Hmm.
And enter that, like I tell a lot of people, NSAS is the reason why I believe so strongly in Nigeria. And NSAS is also the reason why I believe that Nigeria cannot work, at least the way it is right now.
Hmm.
Because we came out during NSAS, there was no talk of where you were from, where you were going, where nobody cared. During NSAS, we came out to protest as one. We were tear gassed as one.
Hmm.
We were
Hmm.
shot at as one.
Where did you
Nobody cared. I had this video.
what did you protest in Lagos or in
In just,
um
no, just,
oh
see, that's
wow,
what
it
I
was
said. This is
everywhere.
just.
It was
It
everywhere.
was everywhere.
Okay.
This was just, we were coming out in our thousands. NSAS is the
Hmm.
reason why, like I said, I believe that there's hope for Nigeria.
Hmm.
Because during NSAS, right, I only missed the first day. I was still a medical student then. There was
Hmm.
my regular, so I was part of the medical team and then the cleaning crew because I'm not a very vocal person during protests that can galvanize the crowd. That's not me. You understand? So I
Hmm.
was on cleanup duty. So I was always going around with trash bags as we're protesting.
Hmm.
Don't litter the environment. Just, I
Hmm.
was part of those guys that were doing that. And then,
Isn't that
sorry,
organized? And this same was
it
implemented
was,
in
and that's what
every
I'm
city.
saying. It
That's
was
organized. It was organized.
organic
Mm,
and it organized itself because it didn't
mm,
matter. In that
mm,
process, there was a day because I used to drive to the protest ground, which was
mm,
crazy because people were saying if you needed to run away and there was a stampede, you couldn't move with your car. But like I used
mm,
to drive to the protest ground. There was this day, a random guy I had never met just
mm,
came and met me and said, I heard you came with a car. I said, yes. He said that somebody in his church, a woman in his church, cooked food for protest, like 200 protesters. And we just need to go and get it. I don't know that
mm,
nigga from Adam. And I followed him to the house of
mm,
a woman I do not know. Went and picked
mm,
food for 200 people she did not know. She said
mm.
she's too old to protest, but this was her contribution to the protest ground.
Wow.
And that was how it was every
Wow.
single day. There was no day
Wow.
we went there and we didn't eat. There
Hmm.
was no day that we went there that we didn't eat. If somebody fainted, everybody revive him, carry him to this place, do that, do that. You understand?
Mm,
The togetherness I felt and the protest in Jos was nothing compared to the protest in Lagos and Abuja.
hmm.
But the togetherness I felt in that 1 week of protest in Jos, I have never felt that way about Nigeria. I
Wow.
missed a classmate's wedding. I carried my clothes for the wedding inside my car. I said I will go to protest ground. After some time, I'll leave protest ground and go for the wedding. I didn't leave till night. That they will come by morning, 8 a.m. we're there.
Hmm.
Till 7 p.m. we're there and we'll leave. The place is full throughout. We'll march.
What happened
Play.
to
I
the
remember
wedding?
this
Did you
David.
did you
I did not go. I did not go. That's Davido's song, Femme.
okay?
That time, that song meant so much to
Mm,
me. I had videos of when police
mm,
threw tear gas at us.
mm,
There was this girl in it. I can never forget. A girl carried it
mm,
and threw it back at the police. I'm telling you, tear gas. I captured that video. I lost it on my laptop was stolen. It pains me so much. Like I captured the video of her picking up the tear gas and throwing it
mm,
at the police back. That's
mm.
how much we felt during that period. And then they just come first. That night, the night before that thing happened in Abuja, there was something that happened in the just protest ground where some soldiers wanted to pass, and then they just started firing indiscriminately, and there was like a stampede, and it was crazy. I remember one of my friends, like, she got injured, lost her phone during the period, and when she came back, because we're like 2,000 people running in different directions because the soldiers were shooting at the place because they wanted to pass. And she came back with an injury on her hand, her phone missing, and she was crying. And all she just kept on saying is, we just want a better Nigeria. We just want a better Nigeria. That's all she was saying at that point in time. And that image can never leave my head. She don't leave because the better Nigeria no come. You understand? And I felt defeated. And when that Lekki thing happened, that's why I said NSAS is the reason why I had so much hope, and NSAS is the reason why that hope died. Because all my hope was deflated with bullets. Until today, nothing has happened. And I mean, if we could gather and galvanize, and they used guns and killed us and then told us that they did not do anything and nothing has happened till today, then you know that there is no hope. And it pains me because I know that if I was in Lagos, I would have been there. And it means that I would likely have died. That's why it made me, because I know that I would have been there. That's why it pains me so much. So I don't know how I feel about this country anymore. I don't know. I just know I love it. But sometimes you love something that wants to kill you.
But the last time it's true. Like the last time I was there, and I was like talking to, I think a family member, not a family member, and I was like, it's as if this country doesn't want us to be here. Like I was telling him, it doesn't want you to be here. Like it doesn't want us to be here at all.
It goes out of its way to show you that it does not want you to be here. That's what this country does.
And I was just saying, it doesn't want us to be here. And I was saying, I said, a lot of us want to come back. I'm going to be very sincere right now. A lot of us here
don't try it, my sister.
We want to come back. Look at what you did is so like a lot of
don't
us
try it.
Come back home, but we're like, the system does not want us there. Like they don't
at all.
I don't even know how to explain
and I get it.
Like I didn't know how to explain it. Like
I live here, so I understand.
I couldn't, like, I was trying to say, I was like, but they don't want us. I said, just come. You know, they will say, just come. I said, this place doesn't want us here. They don't want us here.
Hold your ear. Hold your ear. When I say, don't try it. Thank you very much.
So how is this thing be possible? But why doing this thing? How is it going to be possible?
Which thing?
Which is this thing? This podcast.
Yeah, how are we doing it? That's why the technology has been created. Me, I'll come and meet you there. We'll continue from there. Don't try it. That's what I'm telling you now. Better don't try it. This country, hey God, I beg. See, I get the sentiment because I'm always like, this country is my home. I say that a lot. I hate the fact that somebody is driving me away from my home. Wherever else I go, I am going to be a foreigner. Don't want to look at me wearing sweater here. I don't want to leave this country to where people are freezing to death. But if my country is trying to kill me, what other choice do I have? What other choice do I have? I don't have much of a choice. You understand? So I guess that's what the summary of all of this is, just why the identities of, like, the way you as a Nigerian who lives abroad views your identity as a Nigerian is so different from the way we view our identity as Nigerians living here. You understand?
I see.
Anyway, so it's sad, but it's true. You know, you know, it has been shown that exposure to the US flag increased patriotic and nationalistic identification among Americans and increased activation of aggressive concepts among people who frequently watch the news. In addition, however, the exposure to the Israeli flag also increased unity among Israelis. So basically what they are saying is that this whole idea of, you know, ensuring that people are exposed to their national, you know, symbols and their flags can have positive, you know, effects like we see in the US and in Israel and other places. But it can also have negative effects where people are now having some type of aversion to the flag and all of those type of things, which they said happened in Germany.
Mm,
So it's not
mm,
just a straight one shoe size fits all. You understand? So whatever we are going to implement in trying to teach people more about identity and nation should be tailored to the Nigerian people and the Nigerian perspective, not just carry what they did in the US and bring and replicate here, because it won't work. Does that make
mm.
sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I
Yeah.
actually agree with you. You remember when I sent you like a YouTube video about national identity, what it really means. I remember like
Yes.
there was
Yeah.
even like
Yeah.
a show it's called Empress. Yeah, Empress. How the Germans were trying to unite because they're Germans. Okay, I think it's also in that video that I sent you. Like if you were to look at the ethnic Germans, they're spread all over, and it's not the present day German geography because it's spread out so much. That's why in some
Okay.
parts of Italy they speak
Yeah.
Germany, some parts of France they speak
Yeah.
German. So so
Okay.
I'm just reflecting on national identity and
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
what that means. Yeah. So in terms of my perspective of identity, I already shared that earlier. But anyway, what I will just say is being abroad, there's a sense of identity because of shared identity, although there are differences. And I think because we have had examples from previous people who have lived here, who have been very, very successful here. So it's almost like there's a standard and and also we have to also make our people back home proud of us. So it's almost like you have to like live up to that expectation, kind of, so to speak. So, and I think it's
Yeah.
like a
I hear
cultural
you.
thing as well. So I think that's just it for me. Do I fly the flag every day? No, I don't. But in terms of identity, yes, because I have had a different lived experience than the regular Black American. Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. I hear you. I hear you. So how can we do better? A way forward,
Hmm.
basically.
Well, earlier we mentioned that America has cracked the code of using the national flag to inspire and reinforce national pride because national flags are visual and material symbols have that need to be seen. They amplify these symbols by essentially building a memory cult around the flag. I said, calm down. We're not talking about juju here. No cults. But what we mean is they connect the flag strategically to the events, dates, places, people, persons, and moments that have the strongest memories to us, right, visually. And the major way we do this is through Hollywood, which immortalizes the persons, places, dates, and events as they're associated with this flag. This way, the emotional sensation of movies combined with sentiments around this significance pra- memorabilia produces passionate nationalism. Remember, I was talking about how,
Yeah.
like,
So you
when
remember?
we're here and we
Yeah,
watch Nigerian
exactly.
movies,
That's why I told you.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's why I
Remember we
told you
were
that
talking
we'll
about
talk
that, and even
about it
here, I was like, oh
later
my
on.
god, you guys are so good. Yeah. So it's like that's the way I honestly people are doing crazy body of work. Like when you read what people do here, like your podcast, I was reading your body, I was like, whoa, okay. That kind of encourages us as well. So I mean, I don't know, you guys are doing
Yeah.
something, so yeah, which
I
encourages us,
mean,
yeah.
something. I mean, yeah. So anyway, it's amazing maths that Nigerians need to borrow, in my opinion. And I agree with this so much. And before I even talk about this, I remember I attended our book club had uh, a first like offline meeting and I know that one of the things that somebody mentioned is in our media. Yes, portraying Nigeria as it is important because so that we are not disillusioned as to what the reality is. But that shouldn't be all. We should also portray Nigeria as what it could be. You
Mm,
understand? Because portraying it as what it could be can show people that we don't have to be what we are. We can be something
mm,
else. You understand? And I
mm,
think that that's part of what this part is saying. So they said a study that analyzed 30 Nigerian movies produced between 2005 to 2015 shows that 70% of the selected Nigerian movies did not represent any of the Nigerian national symbols, while 30% of the movies presented Nigeria's national symbols. So of the they did 30 movie and a study of 30 movies between 2005 and 2005. 70% of those movies did never show anything about Nigerian symbols,
mm,
while 30% and did. Now, of those 30%, it was shown that there is a total of 33% prevalence level of Nigerian national symbols presented in all of the selected movies. So even of this 30% that showed something of symbols, it was only about a 33% rate, basically. And it was in this order. Only 7% showed the Nigerian flag of those 30%.
mm,
Then the Nigerian national coat of arms, only 3% was shown. Nigerian national anthem, only
mm,
3%. The Nigerian national currency,
mm,
20%. And the seal of the president,
mm,
0%. Now, this study
mm,
explains that these films from Nollywood reveal Nigerians as more religious and traditional people, but scanty attention was paid to the national symbols and the flags, coat of arms,
mm,
currencies. Negative attitudes of get rich quick, get rich at all costs, witchcraft and fetish practices, violence,
mm,
hooliganism, ritualism are very much exaggerated. They are exaggerated much more than they are.
mm,
And then the things that we should now be exaggerating, we are not talking about at all. The
mm,
films
mm,
have misrepresentations, overrepresentations, and other underrepresentations of the nation's image. So
mm,
basically, we are focusing and highlighting and over exaggerating the wrong things. You understand?
mm,
It's easy to write a movie about drug dealers in the
mm,
US because they are drug dealers in the US. But
mhm,
majority of what you see are the things that increase national pride. You understand? So we
mm,
can talk about the negative things. I know there's not saying that, but we need to also exaggerate the so we need to show what Nigeria can be in
mm,
our media. So we should depict people who have a sense of national pride
mm,
in our media. There's some people who value our symbols in our media, people who
mm,
value our anthem in our media, so that in the next generation, these people now look at our symbols differently, basically. And I
mm.
think that media is one of the ways we can do that.
Although it's sad, there have been some people who have there's some been some like producers or writers who have. I remember Tunde Kilani. Do you know Tunde
Okay.
Kilani?
No, I
And
don't.
also the man that did October 1st. Akin, the
Yeah,
guy
Kule
that produced
Afolayan.
October. Yeah, yeah, for like I know he does a lot of those things. I know that the niche of a very small niche of
Mm,
um producers or directors who are into that. But yeah, hopefully we
mm.
it's a sad reality because
We'll
Nollywood
get there.
by
Yeah.
default get there, by default is eager to portray religious devotions, economic progress, and urbanization. Third Mainland Bridge and the UBA building are moral values and other aspects of Nigerian life, but not our national symbols. Very rarely would you see we see shots of Nigeria of the Nigerian flag or coat of arms in movies, or even school children singing the national anthem. So, could this be due to
Mm,
ignorance of the significance of portraying our symbols to represent our identity, or because Nigerian audience identifies more with the Third Mainland Bridge than the national flag, or is it for the fear of committing any offense? Because let's be honest, the lines around this topic of national symbols are pretty slim. You can easily be found guilty for committing an offense. Can you imagine? Hmm.
which is true. Which is true. Nigeria
Yeah.
is very tricky. You can do something that
Mm,
upsets somebody and they'll just charge you with a crime. And in fact, somebody can tell you something and they'll end up
mm.
throwing you in prison otherwise because this country is a lawless society. But anyway,
Wow. Yeah.
continue.
Okay. I think we are shortchanging ourselves from a lot of PR benefits by consciously or unconsciously eliminating our national symbols from the media exports, especially movies. Nollywood, however, is
Yeah.
only proving the point we made earlier about Nigerians' identity better than our respective cultural and religious identities, than our collective national identity. Nollywood portrays our religion more
Yeah.
religious ethnicity than nationalism because unfortunately that is the obtainable
That
reality.
is the
However,
reality. True.
if we want our movies to resonate more with our global audience, like say Nollywood movies, then we need to do better in showing the world our nationality, not just our ethnicity or
We. focus on the things that divide us, we should also focus on the things that unite us. You understand? So speaking about doing better as Nigerians, we need to break past the forces working against our national integration. And that is why we have national symbols to help us achieve this. The message of tolerance and understanding may sound like a broken record at this point in Nigeria, but it's our only way forward. We must see the national flag as our own and work towards making its essence our everyday reality.
And by essence, so we mean that peace, unity, progress, wealth, and agriculture and abundance. Basically, that's what we're.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's why until we see, and that's the whole this thing of this whole national identity.
Mm,
Until we see the country as ours, right?
mm,
And not, which is going to be very difficult. You understand? If we see the country as ours and I have a national pride,
mm,
and then, that's what we say. That's when you can have all this peace, unity, progress,
mm,
wealth, and agricultural abundance amongst
mm,
us. You understand? Until we do that, hey, I don't know. You understand? We'll still keep on being divided by tribe. We need to focus on things that unite us. We're all focused on things that divide us.
mm,
You understand? So as this goes for the Nigerians at home, it also goes for Nigerians in the diaspora.
mm,
But I think the Nigerians in the diaspora are doing it more because obviously, like I said, they are not faced with the realities of the everyday Nigerian.
mm,
So green, white, green, we need to identify with it. We need to
mm.
respect it. We need to use it. We need to shove it down everybody's throats. Ignorance is no longer an excuse.
So yeah, so we acknowledge that Nigerian flag, especially in recent years, can trigger very sad and unfortunate memories, like the
Yeah.
October 2020 Lekki Toll Gate massacre. Nigeria is yet to recover from that day, and our advice and our advocacy for the Nigerian flag on this episode is in no way an excuse for the action of law enforcement that day or brushing aside the lives that were lost that day. We acknowledge all it and are deeply pained that what was meant to be our covering, protection, and pride on that day was abused and turned into our vulnerability, which cost many Nigerian youths their lives. So our thoughts and prayers are with the loved ones today.
But this is an appeal for us to look beyond the dark moment and further into the future that
Mm,
someone like Pataiwo Akinkunmi saw.
mm,
Let's try
mm,
to rally ourselves around those values by embodying them,
mm.
actively pursuing peace, actively pursuing unity, actively pursuing progress and wealth. It won't be easy, but it is possible. This is also a call for our leaders to do better in promoting our national flag and our symbols, and most importantly, living up to the standards of these symbols in the offices they occupy and portfolios that they hold.
Yes. Also, we are crying out and begging all our schools, ministries, institutions, and others to get the right flags. Every government institution is meant to have a hoisted national flag in every part of the country, and this flag should be up to the standards of the National Ordinance number 48, 1960. So please get rid of the torn out, faded, and torn flags.
Yeah. Get your emerald green and immaculate white flags. Thank you very much.
Thank you
So
very much.
yeah, with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, fathers and mothers, grandfathers and grandmothers, singles and, non-singles, relationship people, we have come to the end of our very first episode of the Analyze These Views from Home and Abroad, a Nigerian history podcast. And I hope you have learned something. We have had a very in-depth discussion, a lot more in-depth than I thought it would be. And I'm very proud of what we were able to do. Uh, do you have any closing thoughts?
You said you spoke really well. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so no, thank you. Technically, I'm not having you because we
Okay,
are
so
both
no.
having each other on this
Ah,
podcast. Yeah. You are not a visitor. This
I'm
is
not
your
a
home. Welcome.
visitor.
Yes,
Okay, okay.
exactly.
So
Yeah, so yeah,
thank you for I think thank you for this platform. I'm just thanking, I'm
yeah,
just thanking putting it out there, just being thankful for this
fair enough.
platform, really. Um,
Fair enough.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I think we've learned a lot, both individually, and I hope you've learned some. We've had conversations we're not saying everything was said is right. So feel free to research this information for yourself, read for yourself, learn for yourself. We want
Mm,
this to be a resource that, first of all, teaches you something, then points you to go and do more research and learn for yourself.
mm.
And if we all do that, then the aim of this podcast is, achieved. So thank you very much and goodbye. Tell them goodbye now.
Bye. Until next time, next episode.
Bye.